3 in this graphing lesson, we'll be talking about slope, slope-intercept form, how to graph them, x-intercepts, y-intercepts, basically how to graph the equation after you have found what your equation wants to be. So to start off with, let's look at slope. So slope is the line defined as the ratio of change in the y values, so in other words your rise, over the change of your x values, your run. It's also known as the rate of change, so you may see that in a few of your word problems asking you to find the rate of change. That just means another form of slope. So slope is denoted as m. You'll see that notation. And it is the rise over the run, so the change in the y's over the change in the x. Down here is your formula for slope. So what this means is you'll have 2 points. And you'll take those 2 points and find the difference in your y's and the difference in your x's to find the rate of change. So to start off with, let's say I give you 2 points and I want you to find the rate of change. Find the slope for the following 3 parts, A, B, and C. So pause this video and see if you can try it on your own first using your formula. And tune back in for the answers. Okay, so looking at the first one, looking at A, I'm looking for the rate of change. I'm looking for that slope. I need my y2 minus my y1. So it's up to you, but what's kind of helpful is when you jot down these points, right above them, write which one is your x1, which one's your y1, which one's your x2, y2. It is pretty straightforward. Your second point, I would call your y2, x2. Your first point, I would call your x1, y1. Keep it kind of simple. Keep it standard for yourself. You don't have to rethink this every time. So to find my slope, my rate of change, I'm going to say 3 minus 0. So I'm picking up these values here. Over 5 minus a negative 2. So with these, you will have to be careful with your signs. So the top isn't too bad. 3 minus 0, 3. But what happens down here with the 5 minus the 2? It should become 5 plus 2, right? 2 minuses cancel out. Is it lock, change, change, I believe is what they call it. So then 5 plus 2 is 7. So your slope is 3/7. So in other words, you're going to go up 3 over 7 when you go to graph these. All right, let's see if you got the other ones right. So the first one, 3/7. Second one, you set up the same way, just different points. And you get no slope. Why did I get no slope for that? Let's look at that one. So I need to have my 2 minus my 2, 2 minus my negative 1 for my slope. So I end up with 0 over 3. Make sure you see how I got that 3. That's another one of those 2 negatives that cancel out into a positive. Well, 0 divided by anything gives me what? 0. So in other words, no slope. You could say no slope or m is equal to 0. Either way. Where in real life might you find a 0 slope or no slope? You may have come up with some good ideas there. I'm thinking more along the lines of walking on a flat surface, walking across the floor, as long as it's level and everything, to where there's no slope. You're not inclining, you're not declining. There's probably others out there too. How about C? Undefined. What does it mean to be undefined? So let me erase A here. Have more room. So when you set up C here, you would have had 1 minus 4 and 3 minus 3. Well, 1 minus 4 gives me a negative 3. That's okay. I can have a negative 3. But the 3 minus my 3 gives me a 0. So in the case of B, 0 over my 3 here, that gives me a 0. But try in your calculators what a negative 3 divided by a 0 gives you. You probably got an error sign. That's telling me undefined. So when the 0 is in the denominator down here, it's considered undefined. If the 0 is in the numerator, it stays a 0. So slight difference between those. An undefined slope will look like a straight up and down line versus a 0 slope, we were talking about walking across a flat surface, would look like more of a horizontal flat line, no increasing or decreasing. So pictures on the board here are 4 basic slopes. They're the only slopes you'll see. You either have a positive slope or a negative slope, or a 0 slope, or that undefined slope. Now that's what we've seen, the undefined. So it's almost like falling through a sinkhole, just dropping through a hole. Positive slope, you can think about you're going upstairs. So you're climbing, climbing, climbing. It's going to take more energy, more effort, versus a negative slope where you're falling. It takes less energy to go down the stairs. All right, remember those 4 slopes for me. The x and the y intercept. So intercept means exactly that, where it intercepts the graph at. So the x-intercept is where it intersects the x-axis. So in other words, right there, this is my x, this is my y. It's where it's intercepting the x. And it's important in certain things. It depends on the problem that you're going to work on. Whereas the y-intercept intersects the y. So if you think back to part 2 of your lesson notes, we had a few things that we graphed there. The t-shirt one. I don't know if you remember about the sports team paying the $200 fee and then adding $12 t-shirts for every person that wanted a t-shirt. Well, the $200 would have been your y-intercept. It was what your value was before you added any shirts to it. It was the starting point. Your x-intercept for that, they didn't have one because remember it was going from 200 and up. It never had anything lower than that 200. So you may not always have an x-intercept. Okay. The last little bit you need to know for graphing is slope-intercept form. And I'm sure you've seen this y equals mx plus b. Of course, now we're going to start calling it f of x equals mx plus b. Just because we're going to switch out x's in there, we're going to put inputs in there to get our new outputs. M is going to represent the slope. We saw that earlier. B is going to be the value of the y-axis, so the y-intercept for the following. So if you had it in this form, you could quickly graph. You could start at your y-intercept and use your slope to find another point to graph it. So let's try an example. Let's try f of x is equal to 1/2 x plus 3. So to start off with, I would right off to the side, your slope is going to be 1/2, meaning up 1 over 2. And your b is going to be your y-intercept, or in other words, 0, 3. You remember, it's where your x is 0, you have some kind of y value. So if you were to graph this, 1, 2, 3. So I will need to go up 3 on my y's to get that y-intercept. That is 0, 3. A few more points on there. Okay. And so then to follow my slope, I'm going up 1 over 2. I am actually going to go up 1 and then over 2. So up 1, over 2. You really just need 2 points to graph these lines. If you want to do multiple ones, that works. That's okay. But for the sake of time, 2 points is enough to find the line, to find the following line. All right, this lesson's pretty short. It's just kind of your standard, anything left over about graphing, extras, pretty short and sweet. Okay, thank you.